there are others too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that there are a number of people in my family who would be professionals today
Hmm.
if they had been able to continue their education.
Yeah. So is it possible, you think, for the Amish identity to continue, if even if people are encouraged to pursue professional careers?
Not and remain horse and buggy Amish. No, it's
Okay.
not like.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. So there are, yeah, it's definitely two sides of a coin there as well.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. How about one more? Is there, go ahead.
That also that also this isn't directly the question, but that also speaks to why there's such Amish quote Amish ingenuity, and
Hmm.
how why there are
Hmm.
books available that talk about Amish business success, and how that the the success rate of businesses founded by Amish people are like triple of businesses
Hmm.
founded generally,
Hmm.
because there are the members of the Amish who would otherwise, were they not Amish, would pursue higher education, become professionals, move away to
Hmm.
wherever their career then takes them. They stay home, they start businesses, and they express their ingenuity and through their businesses.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. Wow. I can't wait to discuss that one with other people as well. That's great. That's, yeah, interesting. Okay, I'm going to just ask a couple more questions yet, and to wrap this up. We discussed the impact that being Amish has had on the family. Um, let's go talk a little bit yet about the great sweeping historic events of our of the last couple of generations, like World Wars One, Two, the Great Depression, things like that. What impact, or how has our family intersected with those great events? And if you have specific stories, you can go ahead and fire away.
I remember when I was born in 1955, so I would have been 8 years old. I remember when the school bus stopped at our house on November 22nd, the day Kennedy was shot. I remember getting off the school bus, and I had heard chatter that the president was shot. I didn't understand the significance of this. And so there was an older boy, Henry Hirschberger, our neighbor boy, was on the bus with us. He was older. He understood better what this was all about. So he went to my dad, who was had the team and was working, was plowing, I believe, in a field right by the road. So he went over to Dad and said the president was shot, and Dad said, "Whoa!" and stopped the horses.
Huh.
Said, "Now what?" And then I understood that a significant event had happened, because Dad doesn't just stop the team
Yeah.
for inconsequential things.
Sure.
And
I see.
so I remember then, and then I remember that evening, Dad and Mom talking about President Kennedy and um, his poor wife,
Hmm.
and what will happen now, and and so on.
Huh. Okay.
So
That's
that was one not significant historical event that I recall how it how the news impacted the family.
uh huh. How about Grandpa? Do you have any times that where uh, Grandpa's story intersected with these great that? Well, Grandpa would have been born in 27, so he would have been around through the Great Depression and also World War II. There any stories from there that you know of?
Uh, he was drafted in World War II
Mm-hmm.
and was returning from Columbus, Ohio, on a bus with other draftees on the on the day when VE or
VA.
yeah, when victory in Europe was announced.
Okay.
So he was drafted, but of course never went into service because the war ended.
Uh-huh. So was he ever shipped off to a camp or something like that? Because there still were a
No,
couple of months left.
no. By the time that that the war was over, they didn't induct new
Mhm.
draftees
Okay.
anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
But he was on the he was on the bus to Columbus for his physical exam
Yeah.
on the
He
day the war ended.
he was drafted very young then because he would have been 18 probably. Yeah, must have been just
Okay?
18 because he was
27, so 37, 47, 45. Yeah, he
he
would
was
have been.
18 years old. He's very young. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I
Okay.
think 18-year old. I'm assuming here 18-year-olds. That was the age
Yeah.
when boys were drafted.
When you were eligible to be drafted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just well, when you think about it, 18. Wow, that's so young. Unverständlich. Okay. Let's get some basic information yet, just to kind of wrap up here. Do you know? Uh, this is there's a different exercise or a different project coming up yet when I need to like create the family's tree. Do you know how many generations of of your family tree or our family tree could you name off the top of your head? And if you want to, if you need it to be
uh,
a little more concrete, start with your dad and work down his line.
okay, so it would have been my dad, Atlee,
Mm-hmm.
and his dad, David Miller,
Mm-hmm.
and his dad, Emmanuel Miller,
Mm-hmm.
and that's as far as I can go off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Your Uncle Dave could give you probably three or four more
Okay.
generations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to your dad's mom, your grandmother. Do you know that line?
She there I can only actually it's to the same it's she was Mahela Gingrich and her dad was Moni Gingrich, which would be Emmanuel Gingrich, and beyond that I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, okay. All right. And then how about your let me think here. Make sure I get this right. Obviously things get things get exponentially tougher because there's each generation doubles itself, so it's guess not quite
Hmm.
exponential, but yeah. So how about heading down the Beachy line, with yeah, yeah. Let's switch to the Beachy side. So how about your mom's dad? Can you give me his name and also do you know any other generations beyond that?
His name my mom was Mary.
Mm-hmm.
She was Czech Kore's Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and so Jacob Beachy is my grandpa,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually do not know
Mm-hmm.
anyone beyond Jacob Beachy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Hey, I have to get my little fan chart out to take a look at this again. I had done some research here earlier, but I am pretty certain that particular line right there ends as far back as we know. It actually ends with Vast Jonas Stutzman.
He actually he factors in, but I'm not quite sure where.
Yeah.
That there is, I do know this. Now it's like when it comes to naming individuals, I can't think who was Jacob Beachy's dad,
Mm-hmm.
father, but our immigrant ancestor was a man named Peter Beachy
Mm-hmm.
or Bitchy, and uh, and how many and I think that was 9 generations ago.
Okay.
So there were recurring names. You will find Moses and Peter recurring
Mm-hmm.
in that family line.
Mm-hmm. I'll check this out again later for sure. But do you happen to know? Do you know offhand, or could you make a guess when was it Peter? Was he the first one? Peter
Hmm.
Beachy? Yeah.
Yeah.
When did Peter Beachy emigrate out of Europe?
Hmm.
It's okay if you can't remember.
Well, now I can't say specifically, other than as a general rule, the immigrants, the immigrant group, which he would have been a part of, came from Europe, from the Rhine River
Hmm.
areas, and landed in Baltimore, settled in Berks County, which is the county north of Lancaster County.
Okay.
That's where the Hostetler massacre took place.
Hmm.
And then when the Revolutionary War conscription took place, the young boys, to escape being conscripted into the Continental Army, went to Somerset County, which was on the eastern side of the Alleghenies.
Hmm.
And then um, by the early 1800s, they had gone, and Ohio became a state. They went on down over the Alleghenies and migrated into Ohio.
Hmm.
And so, how, who was where, I'm not quite sure on that.
Hmm. Okay.
Though again, your Uncle David can tick them off just like one,
Okay.
two, three.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Let me just finish that thought then. That is it's a very interesting line to go down. So we were I was trying to see sort of test your memory to see like in your working memory how many generations back do you kind of know. And so how about one more yet? This would be your mom's mom, right? I don't no we did no we got Mahela, didn't we? No.
No,
I'm getting them mixed up
Cora,
already.
Cora.
Yeah, Cora. Yes. Okay, go. Let's go down the Cora's line. Do you know Cora's mom's name or dad's name?
Uh, no, I do not.
Okay.
Well, it's okay. The family line is Illinois. So
Eli.
Ailey would be Eli.
Eli. Okay.
So it was either Eli Miller or Noah Miller. But I'm not sure which. Either it was Eli Miller's Cora, and she had a brother Noah.
Hmm.
I think that was the case. He was Eli Miller, and she had a brother Noah.
Hmm.
But or it was Eli who had a son Noah, who was her father.
Hmm.
I'm
Not sure
vague.
what it is. Okay. Yeah. 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 It's interesting as it's sort of digging through that. It's interesting that you know or we know people who stick out in history, like we know about Jacob Hostetler and the massacre, and we know about Peter Beachy, and we know about and then like the most recent, very significant thing that happened was Jake Beachy dying, and so we know these whenever there were these big events, we know the people that
Mhm.
are connected with them, but then in between there's kind of these vast times of people who obviously passed on their genes and their DNA, but we're not quite sure who they were exactly. So yeah,
Actually, and that's as ancient as the Bible. I mean, think about that. Think about the reading the genealogies in the Bible.
mhm.
There's King David, and there are certain individuals that we know, and then in between there are some names that are so insignificant that they're not always even recorded.
Yeah, yeah, right, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like we all know Abraham Lincoln, but Rutherford B. Hayes, like what who was he and when was he president? Who cares, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing much going on. Okay, all right, interesting. And then I just need to ask one more question yet, to get my quota in here. I probably have asked a lot more than that, but I need to have 10 that I can actually say that I asked those. So, I have. Um, with one sec here to formulate this one. Excuse me. So obviously you're not Amish anymore, and can you describe how that the experience of deciding to leave the Amish, how has that experience impacted you? Or maybe first, can you talk about why you decided to leave the Amish, and then how that experience of leaving the Amish has impacted you and the family as a whole?